In my previous video, I briefly touched on using Affinity Designer to plan painting schemes. In this video, I will go into the specifics of how you can leverage this powerful one-time purchase software. In this example, I'm going to show you how I take this Paragon warsuit from a Our Martyred Lady scheme into a Bloody Rose scheme. While the process will be slightly different, it is worth mentioning that tools like Photoshop can be utilized in a similar way. The reason I really like Affinity Designer is the one program tries to give you the best of both Photoshop and Illustrator by allowing for vector and pixel layers with tools for them both, without having to change software. I should point out right now that I am not sponsored by Affinity, I just like their products. To get started, what I've done is found an image in Google, saved it to my computer and dragged it into the workspace to open the file. Luckily the background of this model has already been removed, as this will make it a lot easier to work with. If yours still has a background, this is okay too. You can either use your favourite background removal tool, or just put in a little more effort into making the line work neat. And I'll show you what I mean by that. To start with, I'm going to use the rectangle tool to draw a background and set it to a neutral colour. A plain white background may make it a little harder to get the contrast right when colouring the model. In order to prepare regions to recolour, we need to get familiar with the pen tool and the node tool. Starting with the pen tool, you can click to add a node or click and hold to start drawing a curved line. After adding a curve node, the next one will also be a curve, and it will also affect the angle of the previous curve to try and make it a bit more natural. After this point, the next node will be a straight line again, unless you click and hold. This can be a little confusing at first, so I actually recommend a different way. So we'll do this in two passes. The first pass will be just drawing straight nodes. Then switch to the node tool. You can use this to move nodes or create curves. You create curves by clicking and holding down on the line. If you want two curves to be aligned, then you can do so by moving the handle to be straight with the other handle. You'll know when this is done correctly when the square node turns into a circle. This may not be entirely clear, but with a little practice, you'll get the hang of creating accurate regions in no time. To start, I'm going to use a pen tool to block out the area on this arm, paying close attention to the bits that intersect with the hand and shoulders. But I can be a bit more free in this area outside of this area. However, if you don't have a transparent background, you'll need to do this accurately as well. By accurately, I mean close enough to get a feel for your colour scheme. This isn't a commissioned artwork or anything, so as long as you can get the feel for the colour scheme you want to go for, you can really be as messy as you want. After making the region, add any adjustments with the node tool, come up to the fill and change it to a solid colour. Also come to the stroke and just remove it with this button over here. This region doesn't look much like an arm yet, so next what I'm going to do is find the layer panel and drag this region so it is embedded in the image layer. Not under, but embedded. If you're having trouble working out the difference, it can be easier just to try and drag it directly onto the layer and see what happens. As you can see, this cleaned up the edges as it has clipped the region to fit within the object. Next, I'm going to choose a color that is somewhat close to what I need. After selecting a color, it is time to cycle through these layer effects. You don't necessarily need to understand the inner workings of each layer effect. It's best to look at what it is doing on the model and pick the best fit. In this case, I believe color looks the most appropriate. Now I'm going to keep working around the different parts of the model, making regions with the pen tool, adjusting them with the node tool, adding a fill color, removing the stroke, then modifying the layer overlay. until it looks just right. If you have areas like the sister's face where it is coloured but you don't want it to be, you can make a region around the face, select both regions and click subtract. This will make a hole in the region where the other region was. At this point I'm also going to group all of the areas of armour together. This will make it easy to try new colour schemes, as you can just select the group and change the fill as needed. On the tabard, I wanted to remove colour. So I'm going to select the hue as the overlay with my white coloured region. So far, everything we've been doing is in the designer persona, shown in the top left. However, I want to block out the logo on the tabard. One way to do this is to copy parts of the image that look similar from either side. And to do this, we're going to work in the pixel persona. The pixel persona is more like Photoshop, where you are working in a pixel space rather than a vector space. In the pixel persona, I can see the marquee select tool to select parts of a pixel layer. Then copy and paste them to a new layer and move them into position. Now to brighten up the tabard, I'm going to copy the white region, place it on top and lower the opacity so that you can see through it. This is one effective way to lighten or darken an area. I have a new logo I found on Google to try on the tabard. Using the magic select tool in the pixel persona, I'm going to select all the border, then switch to the eraser tool and clean it up as much as possible. I'm not too worried about the white in the middle, as again, this is just to set the mood and theme of the scheme. It's not meant to be a work of art. Okay, now resize and move it into place and you're done. Obviously there's a lot more you can do. If you want to try another scheme, then I'd recommend duplicating the layers and untick the old ones, so you can switch schemes on and off to directly compare them. I hope this has been informative. I have a Discord in the video description if you have any further questions. In case you haven't guessed, I'm currently working on my Paragon warsuits and we'll have a video available on them soon. And I'm going to be doing them in the Bloody Rose scheme. I try to do something a little different in all of my painting tutorials, so we're going to try a few different things to what I showed you in the Morven Vaal video. If you're interested in my Paragon warsuits painting guide, please subscribe so you do not miss it. Thank you for watching.